Hi, good afternoon. My name is Sherman Atkins. I'm one of the careers advisors at City and Islington College at the Holloway campus. And I just want to welcome Simone Welsh from Imperial College Healthcare NHS Trust, who's here to talk to us today about allied health professionals. I know a lot of you students are keen on careers in the NHS, midwifery, nursing, physiotherapy, and so on. And so we're going to have a lot of important information that's going to be really useful for you guys as you begin to think about what sort of careers you want to pursue and follow in the NHS. Um, Now I'm going to hand you over to Simone.
Hi everyone, my name's Simone. I'm one of the Band 7 Specialist Stroke Occupational Therapists at Imperial College NHS Healthcare Trust. I'm here to speak to you today just generally about what a career as an allied health professional could be, whether you're interested in being an occupational therapist or any of our other allied health professionals out there. So I'm just going to share a presentation with you all. So if you just give me a second. Okay, and hopefully this should share in a second. Sorry, I've got two of these up. Let me know if you can't see it. Okay, hopefully everyone can see the presentation okay. Just going to make it slightly bigger. So like I said, today is a talk about becoming an allied health professional and what that means. So if you're thinking about becoming an allied health professional, there's many different professions that you can consider, and there's also many different options into training as an allied health professional. So sometimes I use the acronym AHP, and that means Allied Health Professional. So next slide. So an allied health professional plays a crucial role in helping patients live life as fully as possible. There are many different AHP careers. They work as a part of a central team in emergency response and diagnosis to mental and physical rehabilitation. Allied health professionals are the third largest workforce in the NHS, and there's 14 different professionals. And these can range from art therapists to radiographers, dietitians to speech and language therapists, and many more. You could be working in a range of settings, so it might be in an acute hospital, like I'm working in at the moment, or each different profession might also work more community-based, so in clinics or within the person's home. You'd be supporting a person's long-term mental and physical rehabilitation, and you can also, in some professionals, work in emergency response and diagnosis. Whichever role and setting, you will be making a valuable contribution and improving people's lives. So you'll be playing a significant role within the whole health and care system. So when I said there was 14 different professions, these include occupational therapists, so that's my role. You could be an orthoptist, so looking at people's vision, a paramedic, which I'm sure many of you are very familiar with, a dietitian, so looking at people's nutrition and hydration, an operating department practitioner, so someone who's working in theatre and in surgery, a physiotherapist, an osteopath. You could work in prosthetics and orthotics, so in sort of prosthetic limbs and specialist shoes and those sort of things. You could be a speech and language therapist, chiropodist or podiatrist, so working with people's feet, drama therapist, music therapist, radiographer or art therapist. So as you can see, there's a very wide range of professions and each offering something different to a person's rehabilitation. So how do you become an allied health professional? So the education and training needed will depend on what kind of professional career you pick. What they all have in common is that you need at least a degree level education. So the main route is via undergraduate or postgraduate university courses. And these courses must be approved by the Healthcare Professionals Council or the General Osteopathic Council for osteopaths. Some professional bodies also have their own accreditation system for membership. So that's the most typical route. But however, in recent times, you can train to be an AHP through a degree apprenticeship route. So this would involve working and studying at degree level at the same time. They typically last 4 years and they will combine academic study with practical and paid employment. Universities and employers offering apprenticeships will usually expect you to attend an interview. So what some people also decide to do is they decide to go down a support worker route. So in this role, you would be a support worker to an allied health professional. And this is sometimes a really useful way if you're not too sure what you're interested in or what roles are kind of catch your eye. It might be useful to have some practical work experience as a support worker first, working alongside the professionals so you can learn more about what they do. And then if that is something that you're interested in, you could then explore whether you go down an apprenticeship route or whether you then go back to university to train. And this is what a lot of people do. I studied myself an undergraduate degree in neuroscience, and then I took some time out to be a support worker, and that's where I found out about occupational therapists and what they do. And then I decided to go back to university for my postgraduate master's, and I trained to become an occupational therapist that way. So you would be assisting them and you would be sort of helping carrying out the rehabilitation with the clients or patients, and also assisting the professionals. So there is an AHP support workforce framework. So that's the Regulated Qualifications Framework, and this distinguishes between different levels of understanding, cognition and expertise, with each level being progressively more challenging than the last. So this framework begins at entry level and progresses up to level 8. So you can see the levels down the side here. And this includes doctorates. Bachelor degrees are placed in level 6. So that's a little bit more beyond the table that's shown in the slides. The framework levels that are most relevant to support worker education and development are in the table. And also they give you a brief description of what educational level and demands and examples of some of the qualifications linked to each level. So if you were thinking about becoming a support worker, this table kind of just gives you some understanding of what kind of qualifications they may be looking at and what kind of skills they'd also be looking at you having as well. So if we're thinking about entry requirements, particularly into some of the university courses, you're likely going to need at least 2, usually 3 A levels or equivalent qualifications at level 3, plus supporting GCSEs. So depending on which universities you go to or which course you're picking, entry requirements can vary, and courses are often specify specific subjects. So a lot of the courses may specify at least one science subject, but this would vary between different professions and professional courses. So, for example, I know if you're trying to become a physiotherapist, for example, they do specify that you have some qualifications in biology, for example. I think this is light for occupational therapy, but it's not always essential for occupational therapy. So that's just a small example for you guys. Your university training will last between 2 and 5 years, depending on the role and the course. It will combine university study with practical experiences in community settings as well as hospitals. Courses vary in their content, the way they are structured, and how they are taught and assessed. The facilities available and amount of support and supervision may also differ from course to course. You can find out more by looking at university websites and prospectuses, attending university open days, and contacting admissions staff as well. So we have some videos now to show you, and they kind of just explain different people's experience in being an allied health professional. So give it 1 second for my computer to load and you can listen to the videos. It might take a while. I'm on an NHS computer, sorry guys. If you can't hear it, let me know.
You don't have to have all 8 stars to get to where you want to be. If you want to be an allied health professional, find whatever it is you're strong at and whatever you feel the most passionate about and go with that.
Don't let anyone tell you that you can't do it. I got told in school that I would never go to university and that I was making things difficult for myself applying for physiotherapy. Although I didn't do that as my first degree, I've achieved it eventually.
I would just look into different opportunities. There are apprenticeships, there are university courses. There's something for everyone who wants to get into an allied health professional.
You can be the difference between good care and bad care, and the way that the patient receives that experience.
And you still sort of got that feeling sort of like in your chest that, like, you know, I've done something to help someone. I'm part of something good.
Okay, so that was just generally about becoming an allied health professional. The next video is about being an occupational therapist, but since I am one, I thought I'd give you my own real life story. So like I said before, when I left university, I wasn't too sure what kind of career path I wanted to go down. So I did go to do an undergraduate course in neuroscience, and I did understand, like, I really enjoyed learning about that kind of thing, but I wanted something that was practical and I wanted something that would allow me to work with people. So I became a support worker and explored many different allied health professionals, such as OT, physio, speech and language therapy, really understood what their role was in healthcare and how they supported the clients and patients that we worked with. Because of my background in neuroscience, I did pick occupational therapy, and I then went on to do a master's, and then I've been working at Imperial for the last 4 years. So my speciality is in stroke, so I work in the acute hospital with stroke patients, and generally occupational therapists help people with their everyday lives. And we do functional assessments, so assess how people's stroke has impacted their everyday life. We do assessments around people's thinking skills, so cognitive assessments. We also do a lot of physical rehabilitation as well, quite similar to what physiotherapists do. We also consider about people's home environment, so you might go to someone's home or talk to their relative about their home setup and make some suggestions on different pieces of equipment that would allow them to sort of go back home and do the things that they need to do. I'm a specialist in neuro, but occupational therapists aren't all neuro specialists, so it is a very broad career. It spans over both the NHS, so healthcare, and there's also occupational therapists in social care as well. So they work in social services. So they work with adults, they work with children, they can work with neurological disorders, elderly care, mental health. And there's also occupational therapists in prison settings as well. And they can also work in children, if you're interested in children, not only the acute hospitals, but could also work in children's schools as well. So like I said, it's a very, very broad career, and each different aspect of occupational therapy is very, very different. So I love it. It's a great career. It's very client-centered, and yeah, I highly recommend it to everyone. So here's another video about being a speech and language therapist. So I'm just going to play this to you guys now, once my video loads. It's quite a long video, this one, so I might just cut it short.
Speech and Language Therapy Careers by Get Hackney Talking. What is your current role?
My name is Phoebe. I'm a speech and language therapist, and I specialise in working in the early years. So I support children aged up to 5 years with communication difficulties such as language difficulties, speech difficulties, voice, stammering, and then swallowing difficulties as well.
Hi, my name is Dahlia. I'm a speech and language therapist, and I work with children in mainstream primary schools, so that's children from reception to year 6.
As a speech and language therapy assistant, my day-to-day roles are to support therapists in primary schools, to either run sessions or give help with getting feedback from TAs about how they're finding sessions. Supporting with the programs, might be helping make some observations, writing some notes.
Hi, my name's Rashida, and I'm a speech and language therapist that works with children under 5 and children in mainstream primary schools.
My name is Alicia, and I'm a speech and language therapist working in Hackney, and right now I work in mainstream primary schools.
What qualifications or experience do you need for this role?
I don't think that for my role as a speech and language therapy assistant, there are so much qualifications that you need to have to do this role. I think it's more about the experience that you have. So for me, I had 5 years experience working at a special needs school where speech and language therapy was a massive part of the children that I worked with. Timetables and schedules every day. So I used to work quite a lot with therapists. They would show me how to run sessions and I would deliver them, or using PECs was a big part of my day. So I had that understanding already there and found it really interesting. But I did also have Elkland training certificate and PECs training certificate, which I think are both really useful.
Any experience where you're able to work well in a team, you're able to work well independently, you're flexible, adaptable, able to work well under pressure, have good time management skills, have a lot of patience, experiences where you're creative, and where you're able to demonstrate that you have great communication skills and interpersonal skills. To become a speech and language therapist, you need a degree in speech and language therapy. And you can get this either at undergraduate level or a postgraduate level.
In order to get onto the course, you do need to have either A-levels or BTECs, but this would be specific for the university because some universities don't take BTEC courses. So have a look at sort of the entry requirements for each university.
What was your route?
Okay, so I'm just going to stop that video there. Just a note, so for speech and language therapy, like they mentioned in the video, it's a lot about working with people's communication skills, so their ability to express themselves and also understand language from other people, and sort of the muscles and in their kind of swallowing and how that affects their eating and drinking. So speech and language therapists, they not only work with children, but they can also work in adults in various settings, similar to the ones that I mentioned for occupational therapy as well. So our very last video is about being a paramedic. Then we're going to go on to some resources that can help you explore becoming an allied health professional a bit further.
Hey guys, my name is Elijah Adesanya. I graduated in 2018. I worked for London Ambulance Service as a paramedic. I enjoy working there. I've met a lot of friends, a lot of colleagues, great people that I've worked with. This is a company that has particular values and behaviors they look for, such as respectfulness, professionalism, people with innovative minds and collaborative working with other people. Now, in terms of respectful, if you're someone who's able to act fairly, if you're somebody who's able to work with compassion and empathy, this is definitely the role for you. Are you able to lead by example? Are you able to act with honesty and integrity? If you feel like that's the kind of person, or these are the kind of values you have, this is the kind of role for you. If you're someone who's able to think creatively, adopting new ways of working, whether that's working with technology, working in a new environment, working with others, then this is the job for you. Also, have you ever asked yourself, if you're able to learn while working with others, if that's the kind of person you are, then this is the role for you.
Okay. So just talking about getting work experience, it is recommended if you want to work in the healthcare sector, as well as increasing your knowledge of the industry. Work experience gives you the opportunity to make important contacts. So you can consider some volunteering, explore for some internships, think about part-time jobs, and student projects can all help to improve key skills which are looked for by employers. So if you're looking for work experience placement, you might want to ask your school or college if they have a list of suitable employers that have taken on work experience students in the past. You might ask your teachers or your specialist staff at your schools or college if they know of any suitable opportunities. You may want to try and contact suitable employers yourself, and ask any contacts you have who work for suitable employers to find out if you could do a placement at their workplace. We're now going to go on and talk about the different resources that Health Education England have suggested you guys can look at to explore this further. I think Atia might show you some of the websites in a bit as well, but just while we're talking about this, also have a think if you have any questions to ask me at the end after we've shown you these resources. So there are different recommended resources. So there is a quiz that you can do to find out what profession might suit you best. There's also different roadmaps to practice. So they kind of outline what these jobs are and what the entry requirements might be as well. So for example, there's this interactive resource. So it provides stepping stones for everyone considering an AHP career, no matter what the starting point is. It provides information for people exploring AHP careers or those supporting them. So you can find out more about each profession by clicking on the planets. And then they can show you the steps you can take towards becoming an AHP by choosing a starting point. So that's the rockets right there. And Atia, I don't know, are you going to share some of the resources on the web browser?
Sure.
Sure. Okay, so I'm just going to stop sharing and Atia will share some of these resources on the internet.
Right, I'm going to share my screen in a second. It's just I'm having connection issues at the moment, so I can't show you the rocket ship one, but I do suggest everyone in their own time to go on that. And if you're interested in a specific allied health profession, one of the 14, you can watch videos, you can watch resources, and when you click on it, this one is a Health Education England one, which is very similar to the rocket ship one. And if I just play, I'm not sure if you can hear the sound, but each of these professions are from the 40, and you would be able to, for instance, if you're interested in drama therapy, go drama therapy, and then sorry, 1 second. I might need to mute this because this page has a sound. I know you can't hear it now because it's through the sharing, but I do suggest everyone to go on these if you're interested in a specific allied health profession, and these resources are really helpful. And besides this, there's a online test as well. Like it tells you, examines where you are, where your thinking is, and where you want to be in the future, if you want to be in a patient-facing role or not, like Simone mentioned. So that test is also available on the NHS website, which is on the information resources in the pack. That was the slides that Simone presented. And yeah, this other one is not coming on my page at the moment because I'm having connection issues. But if Simone, if you can share it, it would be really appreciated.
Atia, which one did you want me to share?
That's the rocket ship one, the one with the test that shows where they are and stuff.
I guess just while I try and get it to load, does anyone have any questions that they want to ask?
Yeah, Stefania, you can use this time.
I do have some questions. Simone, I wanted to ask, are there any specific AHP professions that are more in demand or less known than others, and where we should direct students?
At the moment, there is a very, very big shortage of occupational therapists, actually. So it's very in demand in terms of hiring occupational therapists at the moment. Like I said, it's probably one that is less known, particularly to people at sort of school and college level. Unless you've kind of had experience with an occupational therapist yourself, you might not have heard of it as a career. A lot of people hear about physiotherapy, so their courses are slightly more higher sort of competition, but actually physiotherapy is it's a broader career. So a lot of people kind of get into physiotherapy because they think it's all about sort of sports and sports science, but there is a broader range of what physiotherapists do, particularly when they're working in the hospitals. So they do a lot of work with respiratory and on ICU. So you might have heard in the COVID pandemic, a lot of physiotherapists were very highly involved with the patients who were in ICU and on other acute wards in the community. And like I said, they work in neurological services like myself, but there is a lot of overlap between what physiotherapists and occupational therapists can do. There are some specialities that we don't do. So like I said, physiotherapists are very specialist in kind of breathing and sort of tracheostomies and that kind of specialist side of things, wherein occupational therapists are more specialists in sort of cognitive assessments and understanding how cognitive impairment impacts on people's everyday lives. But actually there is a lot of overlap between the two. And like I said, it's a great career as well.
That's great. And you mentioned us working as a support worker alongside different professionals. Yes. The role of support worker, does it require lower grades or qualifications?
There's not really, I mean, like I said, there was that framework that spoke about what would be useful if you were going down a support worker route. So a support worker route is a job. So it's not necessarily a training program. And you can apply, obviously you can look on NHS jobs or sort of other third party.
Yeah, and it doesn't require a degree from what?
I mean, I think usually most of these jobs require the standard kind of GCSE pass levels and standard levels of English and maths. You can be a support worker without having like a university degree, as long as you can kind of explain that you understand the role. Having good life experience is good for these roles as well. So having some experience in like volunteering somewhere and understanding actually what it is like to work in a hospital can be really useful for interview. So then whilst you're working, you'll get that exposure to different allied health professionals. and then that might help you to sort of decide which professional route you'd like to go down. And then at that point, you might decide later to apply for a university course and to train as an allied health professional. But a lot of NHS careers at the moment, because of the shortage, they are offering apprenticeship routes. So if you have been working in a particular trust for some time, it might be worth that interview for those support worker roles to ask, actually, do they provide an apprenticeship route if you were interested in becoming an allied health professional in the future?
Yeah, that's I absolutely agree. I think it's very helpful if you don't know exactly what you would like to do and you want to explore different professions.
Yeah, definitely.
That's great. Thank you. And Sharwin, do you have any questions?
Yeah, hi. I was going to ask, a lot of our students here do BTEC courses, BTEC extended diploma courses, and I just wanted to know how are they viewed in the NHS, those compared to, say, the A levels?
It's not necessarily a barrier. I mean, I guess it's hard because, like we said, there's 14 different allied health professionals. So each profession, there might be a little bit more competition compared to the others. So it really depends what route you want to go down. But I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. I think what is really good at interviews, if you can show that you understand what that profession is and what that means in reality. So if you are concerned and you are interested in a particular profession, it would be good to sort of look on the university websites to see what their entry requirements would be. Sure. In terms of if you become an allied health professional, if I'm honest with you, when you go for interview, no one really cares what grade you got. So no one asked me, oh, when you did your master's, did you get an A, B, or C? As long as you pass and you get, so you do a university course in, say, occupational therapy, for example. Part of that course, you have coursework, you have a dissertation, and you have placement. As long as you safe to practice, when you come to interview for a junior role, in the NHS, that's a band 5 role, no one necessarily asks you, oh, did you get this grade in your degree, or did you get this grade? You always have to have the standard A to C GCSEs or whatever it is these days, but it's more about how you understand the role and what you can show from that. So if you've passed and you can answer the questions at interview well, that's kind of highly weighted, more than actually you have to have got an A or anything like that. Obviously, it's good to get good grades, so not to tell your students not to work hard, but there's a little bit less pressure as long as you're registered and you can show that you understand the role, and you can give a good interview. I think that's where the kind of the weighting is and how we decide on who we pick.
Fantastic, thank you.
And Simon, can I ask, what's the most challenging aspect of your job?
Obviously, working in the NHS, it is the public sector, so there is a lot of restrictions on resources. So it's not so much sort of the role of being an occupational therapist, but sort of the limitations of resources in time, and sometimes like staffing or sort of time restraints. In an acute hospital in particular, there can be a lot of pressure on sort of supporting patients to leave hospital to help with the flow. So there is some aspects of sort of politicalness that you do have to deal with, that can make your role challenging, but that's all it is. It's challenging. It's, you know, the role is still really, really enjoyable, and what you get to do with patients every day, you know, that does add challenge, but you know, that kind of is what makes the job, I guess, a bit exciting sometimes, because you're having to balance all these different aspects. But as an allied health professional, you're kind of, I think generally something that's common between us is we are quite creative people. So not in creative in terms of like good at art or music, but in terms of being creative in how you problem solve something. So I think the biggest skill in being an allied health professional is problem solving, actually, and thinking outside the box and how you can do your job in spite of all the sort of daily challenges that there are, and coming up with solutions. We're very solution focused people. So, you know, they say doctors fix people, but occupational therapists help you live a good quality of life. So that's the difference.
So it's important to be resourceful.
Resourceful, very.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can imagine. That's great. Thank you, Simone.
That's okay. Is there any other questions from anyone?
Any other questions? No, it seems all good. That's great. Simone, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule and share your experience and expertise with our students. It's very much appreciated. And thank you everybody for watching, and enjoy the rest of British Science Week. Thank you everyone.